I think we all felt we knew a little bit about Robin Williams because for everyone there was a character or a movie which we had so much affection for. I was lucky enough to interview him several times. What was it like being his son?
Thanks for having me, Kate. Being Robin Williams' son was wonderful in so many ways, and having to share him with the world was hard. He still went out and wanted to share, his feelings of kind of laughter and humor with the world. And while he was suffering and struggling, he still went out and performed. And I admire him and loved him so, and having to share him was hard.
I'd imagine, Zach, of course, because the only part of Robin that we ever saw were the roles he played, or as Kate's saying, I was lucky enough to interview him on a number of occasions, and he was so full of positivity and energy and humour, and he always wanted to give so much of himself. But, of course, there was a darker side to that personality, which you must have seen as his son, and that was the mental struggles that he had. How did that manifest itself from your perspective, watching your dad have to struggle like that? And how difficult was it as his son to sort of see him struggling like that when the world just saw this effusive ball of energy?
Well, I think, there's a lot of for the most part, he was very good at putting his personal struggles aside and just soldiering on. And when it did show through, it was sad to see someone who was suffering. There was helplessness from my part. I didn't know what I could do or how I could be of best support. And I think amongst those people who were close to him, we all loved him so, and found it difficult because he wasn't always open to sharing his personal pain and struggle, and we noticed that over a period of time.
Of course, and you've recently become a dad yourself to a baby boy, and I believe you've sort of reflected your dad in the choosing of his name. Maybe you tell us a bit about that. And has it and the passing of him influenced the way you are with your son, and the way your dad was with you influence you?
Well, my son is almost 2 months old at this point. His name is McLaurin. That was also my father's middle name. It's a family name. And one of the, we call him Mickey for short. And one of the things that both his mom and I are seeking to do is to be vulnerable and open and sharing our feelings and love for him in as many ways and at every opportunity, because life can feel short, and it's just important to really share the love and feelings of affection and acknowledgement when you can and have the opportunity to, because it's heard. Yeah. It's really heard. And so at this point, we just feel really blessed.
Of course, and there's nothing like having new life to reflect on sort of passing of life. It's nearly 5 years since you lost your dad, and of course, you had to do it in a very public environment as well. He was an internationally renowned, award-winning actor, and you were his son. And that must have been very difficult, because there's no rule book, is there? How do you deal with grief in a very public environment when everybody wants to share it in some way?
Yeah, well, sharing the grieving process with the world was hard, and at times it was hard to differentiate between what involved private grieving and experiencing that loss versus public grieving and experiencing that type of community interaction and communicating and I wasn't prepared. I don't think the gross majority of people are prepared for that type of experience, both in terms of loss, but then the added weight of seeking to try to be supportive amongst a community that's massive, was something that I came to terms with, but the borders and boundaries in terms of how I experienced grief and shared my feelings, and how the world experienced grief and shared their thoughts and feelings was blurred in a lot of ways, and and it was challenging. But I'm very thankful that the outpouring of support and love continued on through, my father's passing, and here we are almost 5 years later, and I feel the massive impact and difference he's made has continued on.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Wonderful. I mean, the last time I spoke with your father and interviewed him, he was passionate about speaking about mental health uses, and good luck with your campaign, because I know that is something that you're passionate about too.
Undoubtedly, it will make a big, big difference. Zach, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm sorry I've got to leave it there, but it's been really lovely to get your thoughts on the near 5th anniversary of your father's passing. Thanks, Zach.